we're going. Yep,
Live.
we're live, probably. Live. Here we are now. Hey, welcome to everyone who's here. Anna and I are just chatting here. We've been working together for 6 years. So we've been teaching a variety of tests for E2 language for 6 years now, which is amazing. And I'm in Melbourne. My name's David, and you're looking at Anna. Where are you, Anna?
I'm in Brazil right now. I'm originally from Canada, but I've decided to take a break from that harsh winter. So I'm in Brazil, São Paulo right now.
Anna's got the luxury of being able to go to snow and then back to the sunshine. And in Melbourne, we just put up with whatever weather's happening out the window, which is sunny for half the day and rainy for the next. We all know that in Melbourne. A lot of our students are from different parts of the world, which is fantastic. And and say hi in the chat box and say where you're from, because it's really amazing. You'll find out that your colleagues or peers are from a variety of places. And we also like to know what time it is. Hi, Sai. Hi, Anne Breen. Hi, Nor. In Melbourne at the moment, it's the comfortable time of 8 p.m. at night. But where Anna is, what time is it where you are, Anna?
It's 6 a.m. The sun hasn't even come up yet. It's coming up. Oh, you're from Brazil. Look at that. Luis Roberto. Hello, Luis. But you're living in Australia. Okay. Wonderful. Barbara, Slovenia. Wow. Okay, guys. So are you guys ready to, shuffle around with tests?
Beautiful. Hey, if you see in the background here, we've got these tests are the tests that we cover. We're not going to talk about OET tonight, but we're going to talk about what I say tonight, and Anna says this morning, IELTS, PTE, TOEFL, TOEIC, and CELPIP. And Anna teaches a bunch of those tests, and I teach the other bunch, but we cross over on the PTE and IELTS. Hello from Saudi Arabia and hello from Bangladesh. So look in the chat box and see where the peers are. I'm hoping you can see that all the students can read in the chat box. Yeah, it's amazing. And that's why we get quite excited. I always get excited when people tell me it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and I think, well, we better get going, because it seems very early and highly motivated. And we're going to talk about the tests that we teach at E2 Language, which is E2 Language Test Prep, which we want you guys to get involved with. There's a list of them on my backdrop there. And we call ourselves experts, but what we really are is experienced in teaching these online, because we've been doing them for years. And we were just saying that Anna and I have been working together for 6 years, but I've been working in teaching English language. I first studied for it in 1992, which seems like, I think sometimes it's before some people were born, but that's my situation. But Anna's been teaching it for a very long time in Sao Paulo and consistently. How long have you been teaching for, Anna?
I started teaching in 1986, just after I graduated. But I started teaching in Canada and then now in Brazil. Yeah, many people were not even born, but that's not really the case right now, right? So, David, when we're talking about PTE testing, how important is it for students to have computer skills to take the PTE test?
Well, it is a really good question, because it is quite important to be able to type competently. I don't think you need to be the fastest typist, but you need to be confident in typing, because when we go and sit the test in the test center, everything is timed, as we know, and so we need to perform at our best with our best set of skills in the shortest amount of time. And it's a great question to ask, Anna. So in preparing for the PTE test, it's a very good idea to be able to work out how do I type? How do I organize my computer skills in order to use the space bar, use the editing features, to be able to use backspace, to be able to use capitalization, to be able to use punctuation, to know your way around a keyboard? It's a very, very good question. And the answer is be as good as you can be. So practice. And that is the answer as well, as to practice responding to the questions by developing your computer skills. Thanks, Anna. That's really cool. I got a question for Anna. We're going to start on the PTE. Now, please write your questions in the chat box. Anna, how many task types are there in the PTE?
20. There are 20 different tasks, and it's divided into 4 skills. speaking, reading, writing, and listening. Curiously, the skills, they kind of like work in pairs. So some questions as read aloud, you will be scored for reading and for speaking. So it's important that the student knows that it's not isolated, right? I mean, the skills, they kind of like interact in PTE.
Yeah, that's interesting. So there are crossovers. So writing, reading, listening, and speaking, writing, reading, and listening and speaking, same for all the tests. In PTE, we isolate out the communicative skills, and those sub skills, or those skills, the communicative skills, are what you are assessed on in order to achieve the mark in speaking, writing, reading, and listening. And what Anna's referring to is your reading skills or your reading comprehension skills will cross over into other task types. So while you're being tested on speaking, you'll also be tested on reading skills as well. And the thing about Anna's question about computer skills is quite interesting, because the PTE is an entirely computer-based test. So your speaking will be judged by a computer algorithm. So your accent, your pronunciation, your fluency, and your content will be judged by a computer. Your writing will be assessed by a computer, and then your reading and listening skills will be assessed by a computer as well. The other tests are slightly different, aren't they, Anna? Can you talk about the IELTS speaking? How does IELTS speaking, how is it different from PTE speaking, for example?
Well, the main difference is that, first of all, you'll be face-to-face to the examiner, with the examiner, right, in IELTS, which for some people, it's much more comfortable than just speaking to a machine. So that is an advantage for some, and for others, due to shyness, it's also a disadvantage. But you will be assessed basically on your language skills. It's not an IQ test, right? So, I mean, if you don't know, if you're not a specialist in the topic that's being asked, you're not going to lose points because you're not a specialist. It's all about communication, using your language, using grammar appropriately, and of course, accurate vocabulary. So there are some questions.
That's
already.
right.
Yeah.
There are. We've got some great questions. And what's quite interesting is I see that people are asking about reading. And reading is one of those areas we think, oh, you'll be all right, guys, just keep practicing. But it's not, is it, Anna? So reading is a whole lot of set of skills that we need to learn. And some of us teachers get quite excited about getting involved in the reading, in learning to read process. And we know that, I'll start with the PTE, that we teach methods in order to understand quite quickly the important information in a text that's in front of us. So in the PTE, we're asked a reading section, for example, there are 5 tasks in PTE reading. So there are 8 tasks in listening, 5 in speaking, 2 in writing, and 5 in reading. And that adds up to the 20 that we were talking about. So 20 different tasks across speaking, writing, reading, and listening. In reading, 5 different tasks. Some of them are to understand what you're reading in front of you and then answer multiple choice questions based on that text. So we have methods for that, and people are asking about how do I improve my reading skills or reading score, and it's to do with understanding the question, understanding the keywords in the prompt, understanding the keywords in the options, and finding those words in the text by skimming and scanning, reading around those keywords, and then figuring out that the information in the text, the meaning of the information in the text, matches the option in the question response. And then we eliminate and select by working out that option isn't in the text. That option is, so it's a possibility. That option is, it's a possibility. That option isn't, that option is. So we eliminate the ones that aren't, stick with the ones that are, and then in multiple choice single answer, choose the one that is most accurate to your understanding. And in multiple choice multiple answer, choose 2, meaning more than 1, or 3 answers that correspond with the text. So it's about meaning, it's about comprehending, understanding what we're being asked and understanding what the text says and matching the question and finding the answer to the question or to the prompt in the text. We get very excited about it because we realize how important it is. And that's what Anna's saying, that reading comprehension is one of those skills. And I know from that Anna's experienced in the classroom with students every day who are going through this processing information, words in front of them in a text, engaging with the text and extracting meaning from the text, which is why we love these tests, because they give you the skills or the academic skills to be able to practice and get really good at it. Across all the tests, you'll be asked to do reading exercises, reading comprehension, and find the answers in the text. What else can you see there, Anna?
Okay, so here we go, guys. It's wonderful to have so many questions. Concerning PTE yet, they're asking about the scoring. Yes, it's accessed by the computer. It's an algorithm that will access your performance and will score you. If you analyze carefully in the Pearson website, there is a score guide that you can read that explains in detail, okay? But just as an overall view, you will be scored according to your performance in each question. So if you're doing, let's suppose, summarized spoken text, you will be scored in listening and writing. So that means you have to use as many keywords as you can from the original lecture, because the algorithm will kind of like understand that you listened. That's why you're repeating it, right? So stick to those keywords. In writing, be sure that you have a nice structured answer with, a complex sentence, your punctuation and capital letters, okay? So when we're talking about here, there's a question for IELTS, and this is a very common question. Do I need to put my opinion in all the paragraphs? So, of course, when we're dealing with IELTS, we have to follow the band descriptors. And the band descriptor says, provides a clear position throughout your response. So that means introduction, body paragraph whenever possible, and certainly the conclusion. But there is a difference between position and opinion. For some types of essays, you will not really have an opinion, like advantages and disadvantages. You're going to express what you believe are the advantages and disadvantages. So there are some little structures there, and that's what we teach at E2, for instance. Yeah.
Brilliant. Now let me ask that question so that the students can know. So the best way to find out about the different types of questions in the IELTS is probably to attend the live classes. Do you agree, Anna?
Definitely, because each live class we deal with a different type of essay, and our schedule is each week one different question type, and that's where you really understand it. But you do not have to put your opinion in all the paragraphs. Certainly in the introduction, certainly in the paragraph that you are supporting, let's suppose, and in the conclusion. And this is
brilliant. Yep, great. So to find out more information about that is to enroll in the live classes. And Anna teaches from April onwards, there's a whole new schedule, which means that at 8 p.m. Melbourne time, the IELTS classes will run. And then on Saturday, there's an extended class that Anna will teach, which is a masterclass in Task 2. So if you're doing IELTS General, choose the IELTS General class. If you're doing IELTS Academic, choose the IELTS Academic class for Task 1s. And for the Task 2 classes, we have General and Academic in those classes as well. So that's at 8 p.m. Melbourne time from the beginning of April, because that's when, from the beginning of April for the next 3 months, that will be scheduled. We've got some other amazing questions here, which is, and it's to do with reading, and it's also to do with listening in. Now, IELTS reading, the best answer, the answer that follows on from the writing issues is attend the reading live class. And the reason we ask you to attend the live classes is because you will learn the method. So we're describing now and we'll answer your questions, but in the live classes, you will learn a method for each section of whatever test you're studying. And the method means, how do I do well in the amount of time that I've got? So we teach you efficiency or efficient methods or strategies to tackle that task in the short amount of time that you've got. The best way to learn it is to attend the live class, learn that method, and then practice it, because it is repetitive. We do practice the same method, and because we develop the competence and skill and then confidence to be able to take those skills on test day into the test. And in front of the test, we are performing really what we've learned to do in the practice sessions leading up to the test. And that goes right across the tests, doesn't it, Anna?
There you go. So that's it. So I can see here also in the chat box, lots of questions concerning reading. And we do have to remember that reading is the foundation of language. Excellent. We know that. And what is a proficiency test? It's language test. And language is grammar and vocabulary put together. So not only when you're preparing for a proficiency test should you practice questions, but you should also build your skills. Now, what skills should you build on? That's a common question. How do I know my mistakes? So assessments, being assessed by a specialist. A good English teacher can definitely help you improve, but IELTS specialists, PTE specialists, we know what's going on in the background. So not only the English, but the other components that will make you successful. And being assessed means being corrected in IELTS style or in PTE style or in TOEFL style. That means, what do I need to do? Collocations. So there are quite how many collocations? There isn't really an answer to 5 collocations or 6. That's not really the point. Collocations have to fit in smoothly. So it's not just to shove it in, you have to be careful with that. Another important aspect is you have to build your skills. Like I said, but what skills to build on? Is it grammar for articles? Is it verb tenses? Once again, at E2.
Beautiful. Let me interrupt slightly there. We've got there. I'm going to develop what Anna's saying there, because there's a question here: is it possible to get 6.5 and then ask a series of questions? Now, what we want to do is move you from where you are to where you want to be over a period of time. We want to move you from 5 or 5.5 or 6 to a 7.5, 7.5 or 8 by developing strategies and by becoming better at using the language to communicate. And that's what Anna's saying, is getting better at things by getting feedback most often. And then that feedback is instruction or teaching. And it's the teachers enjoy the process of teaching. And we know from the feedback from the students that that is the way that you improve, is that the teachers focus on you, focus on what you can do, and focus on what you need to do based on the teacher's experience of teaching thousands of students who are doing the same. They're going through the use of prepositions, the use of linking words, the structure of sentences, the organization of ideas in paragraphs. All of this is learnable, and we're able to adapt what we learn to what we do, so that we can confidently do what we couldn't do before. And that's why we all enjoy it, because we go through a process of transformation and getting better. And that means learning and adjusting and changing what we do on the advice that we're given, which is the instruction, and trusting it, and then finding out it does work, and then gaining that confidence that you can go ahead with that new learning. And that Anna was saying, it includes vocabulary, grammar, and the language skills. The language skills are associated with writing, which is the organization of ideas in a logical format as well, both across all the tests, and we call that written discourse. And we work out that we've answered task responses, we've answered the question by taking the keywords and writing in response to that as well. But the key to that seems to be to learn how to do it, get good at it. So learn what to do, learn how to do it, and get good at it by practice and by changing and adjusting, and enjoy the process. And how long do you think it takes for someone to go from, say, a 5.5 to a 6.5?
Okay, so that's a very common question, how to improve your skills. And in terms of time, well, each student is very unique. We know that learning skills are unique. I would say that in general, you have to dedicate yourself on a daily basis, every day, even if it's like a small amount of time. You should be able to reserve and build your knowledge, build your skills. That means, so if I'm working on writing, I need to cover all the different question types. I need to cover all the grammar aspects. I would say that if you're able to dedicate around 2 hours a day and you get feedback from a specialist, because the mistake is that many students, they study on their own and they're not aware of their mistakes. So they keep repeating. So they keep taking the test and 6.5, 6.5 or 5.5 because they don't know their mistakes. You need to know where your mistakes are. So that's the key.
How to get correct? How do you find out what your mistakes are, Anna? How do you, if you're making mistakes, how do you find out what your mistakes are?
Well, definitely it's through being assessed, getting feedback, and also tutorials, one-to-one sessions, because the teacher, we can focus on one student at a time. Slightly, sometimes the method is a general method, but for some student, a little twist here, a little twist there will adapt better to the student's learning skills. So, and I think
okay, so let's talk about that just for a second. We've got Anna teaches a lot of tutorials and a lot of live classes. I have done that for a long time, and I participate every now and again. I get used to, I'm more organizing things these days, which isn't nearly as interesting as getting involved with student learning, but in student learning in a different way. But Anna, in a one-to-one tutorial, is it possible for a student to bring their writing to you and for you to personally assist them?
Definitely. I always mention in the live classes that the best, the most productive is if the teacher, I can see a piece of writing before the tutorial. I always share my email for students to send that in before the tutorial, because I can kind of like, program, analyze, and program the class for it to meet what the student needs exactly to succeed. So definitely you need individual attention. It comes to a point that if you've repeated the test 3, 4, 5 times and you're still stuck there, you're repeating most likely the same mistakes. Now there's a nice.
That's right, isn't it? So so if a student has failed the test and gets, say, a 5 or 6 and they wanted a 7.5, what do you think they should do?
Okay, so it's like you have to have a study plan. I believe that basically 2 months would be the average time that a student would take, dedicating 2 hours a day and extending a little bit on weekends for mock tests. Mock tests are really, really effective for a student to progress. You learn the timing, you learn your skills, and you become confident that you can conclude and finish the test within the time frame. So mock tests.
What is a mock test?
Very well. So mock test is when you kind of like, you do the test, but not in the test center. You're kind of like, going through all the phases and the steps of a test, but not at the test center yet. But so that on the day that you go to the test center, you're confident and prepared. In particular with time.
Right, now, yeah. Those who've just heard that, can you write "yes, I understand" in the chat box? So what E2 language does do is a mock test. So means that you can practice. It's a small version, a shorter version of the whole test that you can then be graded on by a marker, and meaning an examiner or ex-examiner level marker from E2 language. So if you understood what that meant, just put your thumbs up in the chat box. It means you can practice the test before test day. And what that gives you is an indication of how you're likely to go across writing, speaking, reading, and listening. So if you understood that, just put a thumbs up. What we really love is when people who understand what we're saying participate by putting the floating thumb, is always one of the best ones, or as you've been doing a clap or a heart. If it makes sense to you, yay, and it's useful information, we'll keep going with your indicators. Well done. So what Anna's talking about is one of the offerings that we have as part of the package is a mini mock test or a full mock test, where before test day you can get an indication, you can practice all the tasks. So you can go into the test on test day knowing that you are likely to achieve the result that you want to because you practiced. And Anna's also referring to this idea that if you keep going to the test and failing without getting feedback, you are likely to keep going to the test and failing. And it's quite an expensive process. What we know and like to do is to intercept you at some stage and bring you into our learning system. And then practice, learn the methods, practice the methods, and then go and do the test after you know that you're confident and ready to take the test again. So the time you invest in your study with E2 language is way more likely to get you the result that you want than it is to keep repeating taking the test. So we learn how to do well on the test, and that covers all the tests, which if you see is IELTS, PTE, OET, TOEFL, TOEIC, and CELPIP. So if you're contemplating taking any of those tests, it's a good idea to have a look and explore the E2 language website, which you might have a look at in a moment, and choose the package that's going to suit you to get you through the test. And so IELTS study may take you 10 or 12 weeks. We're saying 2 months. So we're saying, 8, 10, 12 weeks to get you the skills and the language, the test skills and the language skills to achieve your result rather than repeat taking the test and failing. Thanks, Anna. We've got some other brilliant questions in the
IELTS, writing, and general. There's a very interesting question here which says, which test should I take, the paper-based or the computer-based for IELTS? Now, some old school learners are much more confident with paper-based, definitely. So if you feel that you are an old school time, go for paper-based. If you feel that your skills in computer are, in tip-top shape, the computer-based is a good option, in particular for editing the essay, I would say. But as long as your skills in computer, you're really, confident in typing, you don't make many typo errors, because typo errors it's difficult to see. Nowadays, with this system of autocorrections, we really don't realize our mistakes. So students read, but they don't identify the mistake. So that's something to think about. I would do a mock test of each and see how you feel. That's one of the best ways. Okay, so do a mock test of a reading for IELTS, paper-based, and do one on computer. Okay, now for writing tips, here we go. Ultimately, you have to answer the question. That's your final goal in IELTS. So regardless the essay type, by the end of your essay, the examiner has to have understood that you have answered the question. That means you need to organize. So there are three elements: present, support, and extend. And the structures that we propose, which is either the single idea or the double idea paragraphs, they include these elements to guarantee that you answer the question with the requirements of the band descriptors. That means you present, you support, and you will extend. If you do not do these three elements, if you don't include, you will not achieve a good score in IELTS. And how to do that means in the body paragraphs, that's where you do this. You present your idea. Many students, they don't present their ideas, so there isn't a topic sentence. You must have a topic sentence in each paragraph. The topic sentence has a function, that it is to inform the reader what the paragraph will develop. So the topic sentence introduces, and the other sentences unfold. So we'll unfold the explanation, which will support. We'll unfold the example, which will be an extra support, and then you will extend by bringing the consequence of that, or the result, or an if. So this is what we teach. We teach you strategies that are effective to answer the questions using a structure that you will be able to repeat regardless after a while.
Beautiful. Now I'm going to intercept that too, because some students think, can I memorize an essay and just take it into the exam? Don't. Because what we will teach you is how to use an understanding of how to structure your argument or written discourse in your essay writing every time. So it's by no means like memorizing a script. It's like memorizing a structure. And the reason we know that works is because you will extend what you do in the IELTS test or the PTE test or the TOEFL test to other situations where you use the same method for a different task type, including writing your own emails. So what Anna is saying is a topic sentence, which contains the main idea in a paragraph, and then you develop that main idea by extending it, by explaining it, by providing examples, by working out what a consequence is of the actions of those previous ideas, and then a concluding or a rounding off sentence. That structure in our mind we can take that into different text types beyond the test. But what you will learn for the test, which is what you turn up to do, is to present your ideas in a logical structure, framework that it develops your ideas through your essay. And the question before was, do I put my opinion in every paragraph? Well, what you might do in PTE, for example, is to develop one positive idea in response to the prompt in the first paragraph and a negative idea in the second paragraph. And then your conclusion will agree with one of those main ideas, which will in turn agree with what you said in the introduction. Now, in my experience, writing for PTE the structure is more straightforward than IELTS because there's less variety of question types. And the essay structure that you use is completely memorable. And in fact, all the methods are completely memorable. So we're not remembering long phrases, or we're not remembering things that are pre-thought. We're not remembering a template, which some students ask often. We are remembering a structure or a method that applies to each of the tasks that we're practicing for that will last you for a long time. And that's based on your memory. Yep.
Okay, there's a very nice question here, which is in speaking IELTS. Should I give long or short answers? Excellent question. IELTS speaking test has 3 parts. So for instance, in part 1, it's all about personal questions. So some students just take for granted that part, but you are already being assessed. And if you study a little bit, you will understand that the examiner has 4 to 5 minutes to conclude this part, but he has a list of questions that he has to ask you, because each question will assess and evaluate the skill of language. And there is a pattern. Let's suppose the questions come with different verb tenses, Did you, have you, with different interrogative pronouns? How often, how long? Your answers in part 1 should be around 2 to 3 sentences. If you extend, the examiner may interrupt you to move on to the next question, to be able to ask you the questions within the time frame. But don't worry, if he interrupts you, there's no negative marking. Here's a nice tip for you guys. Let's suppose the question is, did you enjoy art lessons in school? So a pattern would be, yes, I did. Avoid the standard pattern. Go, when I was in school, I really liked my arts teacher. So do that little, sentence inversion to avoid that pattern of, yes, I did, no, I didn't.
Let me add to that as well. So in the speaking task as well, what we know really works is in response to the first part and also the third part is we give our opinion. Did you like art at school? Yes, I did. And then we give a reason and an example, and we remember that by ORE, or the mnemonic, or a memorable acronym in this case, which is ORE, opinion, reason, example. Yes, I did, because I found the teacher to be really engaging. For example, we would often talk about quite interesting topics based on his experience, and that became more interesting, in fact, than the art that we were doing. So I give my opinion, a reason, and an example, which is to extend your answers in part 1 and part 3 of IELTS speaking, and in any other questions when we ask to give a response, is not to give a stock standard short answer, but to give an extended answer, which provides your reason behind your opinion, and give an example which then convinces the listener of to see your point. Brilliant.
Okay, so there's an interesting comment here that says that British Council is against block style as being taught in E2. We do not teach block style. We teach a frame that develops in a very structured and academic way, principally task 2 as well as task 1. So it's not a block. There's no template. It really is a very structured. And this structure that we teach you, in fact, you can apply, let's suppose when you're answering an essay at university as an assignment, because it is a logical and appropriate structure for academic writing. Topic sentence, explain, provide evidence, and then extend and conclude. You don't necessarily have to conclude every paragraph, but you do have to link one paragraph to the next. That is really important, or else that will be blocked. That is, so definitely. So when let's suppose you're discussing 2 sides, advantages and disadvantages. You conclude your advantage paragraph, and you're going to go to the next paragraph to discuss disadvantages. So you can go with a sentence like, even though there are positive outcomes, it's important to realize the possible negative outcomes from this trend. And then the reader is ready for the next paragraph. So it's not really block style. There's another important question here as I was speaking about IELTS speaking. When it comes to part 3, tricky here, because some questions say, do you think, in your opinion? Yes, you express your opinion. However, if you're going to illustrate with an example, do not use a personal example. Use always a general example. So for instance, do you think that children should learn a foreign language in elementary school? Yes, certainly this can provide them with skills that they will use in their academic life and provide. My son in Canada studies, no. In Canada, children who attend school learn English and French. So that's the trick for part 3, okay?
Now, it is. Now, it's different from part 1, isn't it, Anna? Because in part 1, the questions are often of a personal nature, such as where do you like where you live? In your city, are you able to do you have many tourists? And in those cases, we're able to give personal examples, aren't we? So we're moving from the personal to the general, which enables us to be more academic or more objective in our presentation of our facts and material. And that's a brilliant point of Anna's as well. Now, those kind of tips will get you a higher score. What we're teaching, the methods that we teach, map to or correspond with the rubrics of the examiners. So we're not making it up because we're sort of interested in the area. We're interested in the area, but it is what we are teaching you will match to the expectations of the examiner and what the examiner is looking for across different bands in IELTS and across the algorithm banding in PTE, and also across the other test, which is TOEIC, TOEFL, and CELPIP. So what you are expected to do on test day is what we would teach you how to do. And interestingly enough, a lot of the methods are very similar across all of the tests, aren't they, Anna? Yeah.
In a certain way, yes. However, the demands are different. For instance, writing an essay for PTE is slightly different from writing an essay in IELTS. First of all, you have 20 minutes only for the PTE essay and 40 for the IELTS, I suppose. And the requirements to include are different. Now, there are some very technical questions here that I think are worthwhile. Do I have to indent a paragraph? No, you don't indent paragraphs. And regardless of indenting, because you don't have to indent a paragraph even when you do an assignment, okay? So don't indent. And you should, yes, skip one line in between paragraphs, okay? There is a standard here. It becomes for PT and for IELTS. For both of them, you should skip a line. Another important question here is, how can I improve? Definitely. So how can you improve? And when should I take my tutorial? So two very good questions. My suggestion before taking a tutorial, you as an E2 student, you should go through the course materials, send in one assessment, wait for feedback, and then you are ready to take your tutorial. Because tutorials, they're meant to be productive, to answer your questions, to identify your weaknesses, and we teach you how to overcome weaknesses. So the structure is attend live classes, go through the course materials, send in an assessment. When you get the feedback, you're ready for your tutorial. And another question here is, can I upgrade my package to include tutorials? Definitely. In the platform, on the right-hand corner, or in the main menu, you go, oh, here we go. I'm going to share my screen so that I can show you guys this. Here we go. So this is our magical platform, I would say. It's magical because there's so much here. I mean, you really have what you need. The course materials are here. So, of course, this is an IELTS, but it's very similar for PT, TOEFL. So you will have here for listening, for writing task 1, writing task 2. There's a lot of material to teach you how to develop the tasks with videos, practice. After you have gone through the course materials, you should come to assessments. So in assessments, the majority of the packages, bronze, silver, and gold, they include assessments. You should send in your assessments. There's also videos instructing you how to use the assessments. So once you receive feedback from the assessments, you're ready to schedule a tutorial right here, appointments. Your mock test, you should take your mock test. There are 2 moments that you can take your mock test. When you begin to know where you stand. So I'd like to know where I stand. That's a good moment. Or after you've gone through the process of course materials, attending live classes and tutorials, and you're like 1 week before your official test date, it's a good time. It takes 1 or 2 days to get feedback from the mock test, and you will still have a couple of days to try to catch up on any elements or content that you're short. The group classes are another excellent resource that we have. I love the group classes because I can give immediate feedback to all the students attending. All the students will get immediate feedback for speaking and for writing task 2. And here, if you want to change your package, it's here in shop. So you can click here in shop and you will get the options of upgrading and other stuff like that. Okay. Now the mock test, if you can think about the mock test in PT, our version is slightly shorter than the official version. Let's suppose in the real test, you will get 10 repeat sentence. Here you will get 3. So, but you will get the feeling, trust me, PT is like a marathon. Bang, bang, bang. The questions, they just hit you. And if you're not really prepared for this and for the atmosphere, the environment, which is very noisy because everyone is doing read aloud, repeat sentence at the same time, you may face some trouble there. So it's important, and we can help you with that, with background recordings and all whatever you need to support your process. So definitely our platform has all the information that you need. You can also access recorded classes if you can't attend the classes live. So it's all here. And switch my course. If you wish, suddenly some students, they want to switch the course. Here you go. It's all here. And of course, our support team, trust me, our support team, they are very, very competent. Reach out to them and they will certainly help you. Should I share the email of the support team here so that they can send in questions?
Yeah, I think what the best thing people can do, somebody asked me that before, is for those of you who already got packages, it's a good idea to reach the support team. But I think what's important now, we should probably give it a wrap in a minute, is that student use, if we go back to the original slide, there is a code that you can use to get a discount on your packages where you sign up now. Now, the reason we have these information sessions is not to sell you the packages, although we want you to buy the packages. What we want you to do is to recognize that if you're in difficulty and you're spending money by failing tests, if you want to be organized, and can have the time to set aside for 6 to 12 weeks for 2 hours a day, as we were saying earlier on, to develop the skills across any of the tests, then we've got the gear, we've got the content to get you engaged in the learning of the methods and practicing and getting feedback in variety of forms. So you're actively learning in your own time and also in the live class time as well. The code to use is QA15. Which must be question and answer 15, and what that will get you 15% off, which is a pretty amazing deal off the packages. And the reason we're encouraging you to sign up for the packages is because we have the confidence that the teachers that we've got and the content that we've got will get you to where it is that you want to get to, which is to get you through the test so that you can then go on to do what it is you want to do after the test. So the idea is to have your questions answered in the live classes, presented and answered in the live classes, answered in the tutorials, answered in the group classes, and that you develop your skills over a period of time so that you progressively improve all your language skills, and then you improve your test taking skills as well. So by the time you take your test, you get the result that you wanted to, but you are a more competent English language user, which you will go on practicing and developing for years ahead. So to access, this is a period of your life that you will go through in order to get through the test. And we really want you to have you in our classes so that we can see you. Our teachers like Anna and Danielle and Graham and Sasha are located in different locations around the world, which means that you can choose the time that suits you. You're likely to get the time that is most suits you. Somebody was saying, as we saw at the start of the class, people are located from all around the world. And that's what we're designed for, is for you to turn up when you can, so that we can give you what you want in your time. If you have to go, that's fantastic. Take advantage of a 15% discount. These offers come up every now and again, but they're not available all the time. And I can speak on behalf of all the teachers at E2 Language that they've been with us for a long time. We really enjoy what we do. The reason we enjoy what we do is because we enjoy seeing student success. So our job is to get you through the system. We've got the confidence that we can do it. We've got the knowledge and the time and the patience. And so teachers like Anna are exemplary in taking the time to get you to where you need to be over time. So we'd love to have you as part of the E2 family, a part of the E2 community. You get to know each other a little bit in the classes, and you also get as much learning material as is necessary for whatever test you're doing in order to get you to achieve your goals, so that you can move on beyond the test into take your language skills with you. What else do we need to say, Anna, before we wrap up?
Okay, so before we wrap up, there are many questions here, but one of them that I find interesting and which I repeatedly help students is, how can I be more fluent? Well, that's a natural question because after all, for most, English is a second or third language. Tongue twisters are an excellent resource. I remember learning as a little child in Canada, my kindergarten, first grade, tongue twisters. So because you need to practice, you have to understand that when you speak a language, your cheeks, tongue, and lips, they are all part of the system for speaking. And the sounds that you produce in your mother tongue are different from the sounds that you will produce in English in some cases. So the tongue twisters, they are efficient and they are helpful. 5 to 10 minutes a day of tongue twisters definitely will improve your fluency and your pronunciation. Of course, a mother tongue influence is almost kind of like a cultural identity. We know that. But it's important to have clear sounds, that your vowels sound as vowels, that your consonants sound as consonants. Even if you have a slight mother tongue influence, that's fine, as long as the sounds come out right. So tongue twisters, it's an excellent source. I highly recommend. Now there's another question here. Can I take? Yeah.
Yep. I'm just going to add to that too. And those kind of suggestions are incredibly useful for us developing the sounds of English. We have skills classes as well. So on 3 days of the week, which is changing in April, we have pronunciation classes which teach directly what Anna's talking about, which is how to recognize the sound, be aware of the sound, and then how to produce the sound. So how to produce any of the 44 phonemes in English, as opposed to 40 sounds of American English, and work out how do we form those sounds so they can be understood by our listener. And the mother tongue or the mother ear, the mother language sound is part of the influence of that sound. But what needs to be created is the clarity so it can be understood by the listener so that the communication is effective. Now, that's part of the pronunciation class, which is one of the skills classes. So we do pronunciation. The other two are grammar, and the other one is spelling, because we associate all of these skills in our writing and our listening and our reading and our speaking. So they're all mixed up. But we break them down and we learn them over time. I actually think we have to go, Anna, because there are questions. People asked OET questions, and you can see OET up there, and we haven't answered any of those. But I can tell you that what we teach across the test, we also teach in OET, but we have and I claim world experts because they have been doing it they are trained teachers in OET who've been doing it for a long period of time, and they're well qualified. Those questions turn up to the OET classes and experience what it is to learn what to do in the test. If you can't turn up to the live class, turn up to the recorded class, and again, develop your skills like we do in all the other tests. But the idea is to become familiar with the test by attending the live classes and learning that information. Apologies to not addressing the OET students, but what Anna's been describing for IELTS and what we've been describing for PTE are very similar methods: essay response to task one, writing a letter in OET, responding to questions and developing responses in speaking is similar, but differentiated and slightly more complex in OET as well. Pronunciation is part of that. The organization of your thoughts when you're giving a spoken response as well. So the skills that you learn specific to each of those tests is what we specialize in. And when we say we, because there are two teachers you see in front of you now, but we've got teachers who are located around the world who are specialists in their area who will answer your questions based on experience from whatever level you're at to whatever level you need to be. So we fit you in according to your learning needs. Anna, let's wrap it up in 60 seconds. How should we inspire our students to?
So definitely, I would love to, I'm going to comment that I have seen here in the chat box students that attend our live classes. So hello to you guys. I'm not going to say names because there's a big list, but trust me, I can see your names here and I can recognize from the live classes. I would love to see you join us. Trust me, we can really give you the hand that you need, assist you, support you, and take you to the level that you need. Of course, your effort is also required. So let's work together, and I'm sure that you can achieve your scores. So I'll be expecting to see you there in our E2 community. It was delightful to be here with all of you. I wish I could answer all the questions, but unfortunately the time is short. But we'll be back, won't we, David?
Oh, look, we plan to be back, I think, once a month for you guys to ask questions. What I encourage you to do is to turn up to as many of the live sessions as possible. We actually have live streamed webinars as well, don't we, Anna? So we've got an IELTS live stream webinar coming up on the 20th, I think, and we've got a PTE one coming up on the 27th. And in those live stream webinars, we will deal with specific skills in order to answer. I'm going to deal next week with on the 27th with PTE writing. So we're going to look at what we were talking about, which is introduction, planning introduction and paragraph structure for PTE. What are you talking about in the IELTS stream webinar, Anna?
Yes, so in the webinars, we discuss, in this one, we're going to be discussing reading, if I'm not mistaken, or writing paragraphs. We did one in writing introductions and conclusions, which was lovely The students participated, sending in their writings. And right now, in like 25 minutes precisely, I'm coming up with an IELTS Task 1 class where you learn how to identify the information, how to group your information, because many students are confused on how to select information, because sometimes there are appropriate strategies for you to select the correct information to report. So in 25 minutes, I'll be on live with Task 1. So if you haven't registered, you can register as an E2 student, as a free to get started and attend a few classes. Isn't that it, David, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, that's it. So I think you've got tonight is, yes, at 9:15. So that turns out to be 10 in 25 minutes. Anna is doing her class, and I will see you in the next PTE webinar, but also turn up next time to ask again any specific questions, particularly how to study at E2 language, ask study question skills, preparation skills, timing skills, how long does it take for me to achieve my results? What do I need to do to be good at what I do? Yep, and again, keep turning up. Turn up to Anna's classes, turn up to the other teachers' classes, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the live stream webinar. Submit your writing for feedback. There are a lot of hardworking markers in the background who are churning through your writing to give you corrections and to give you encouragement and coaching and responses as well. So that's all from me. I think that's probably all the time we've got for, and you've got to go and prepare for your next class, Anna. So thanks everyone for turning up. It's a delight to have you here. Obviously, Anna's got a crowd following over here, which is pretty amazing, which is that Anna's students have turned up to this class. Tell your friends to turn up. These are free sessions, and what we want to do is to encourage a community of E2 language learners, and you turn up when you need to, or you feel that it's right to turn up. You make the right choices about the test you're taking that's appropriate for your academic interest or for your work interests, and that you trust the system that will get you to where you need to get to, with the teachers that we've got and with the resources that we've got. So what a joy it is to have you here. Omar's got a question, but we are going to go because Anna's going to go, and I want you to go. What I'd love you guys to do is to again turn up to the next session. Spend time going through the platform, have a look around, write to help if you need to, reach out for advice via the email, which is on the platform as well. And let's get going. Anna, you can say goodbye, Anna. I believe that they're waiting for that.
Goodbye, guys. I'll see you guys in the webinar, in the live classes, and of course, in the next question and answer session. David, wonderful to be here with you and with all of you as well. Have a wonderful day, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are.
Thanks, Anna.